Welcome to Inside Moto episode 4 of our weekly show. A little bit different this week because I've got a co-host from the mxvice show, Ed Stratmann, who's joining me because this is an intriguing one for us. We've had some fantastic people already. We've had Doc Wobb in episode 1, who's behind the Vets MXDN Nations, hugely successful business, does a titanium. Then we had Jamie Buckingham, the athlete manager from Liat, who was a former MXGP mechanic. And then we moved on to Patrick Erlinson, who is the senior business development guy for MIPS, massively into helmet safety, and also is the JWR team manager as well. So I love hearing these stories about how these people first get into the business, how literally it's fueled by passion, but at the end of the day we all need to make some money to be able to keep doing our passion. So huge thank you to our sponsor, Even Strokes. It's a UK-based online motocross shop that offers motocross parts and gear, driven by making motocross more affordable. There's always deals on. Use code mxvice to get 10% off anything site-wide. Liat, Thor, Alpine Stars, Prox, all the parts you can think of are all on Even Strokes. Literally 10% of everything that Even Strokes sells goes back into the mxvice coffers to pay for my hair transplant. So without fail, I've got a really great guest today, and it's an intriguing business. A lot of people are going to be able to relate to this because there's obviously I'm pretty sure that when you hear this concept, you're going to be like, shit, why didn't I think of this? His name is Ryan Amoils, and the business is called MX Locker. Ryan, thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to join and talk moto and business.
Yeah, I mean, this is my two favorite things. I don't know about you, Ryan, but I absolutely love motocross, and I kind of gave up my agency back in 2016 to try and focus on this, and rather than do extortionate websites for law firms and accountants, which was boring as shit. And I developed mxvice, and so I get to do my passion and have fun, which is a win-win. So Ryan, can you tell us first a little bit about MX Locker? Because I'm pretty sure people are going to be like, what is MX Locker? I mean, in America, it's freaking huge. I mean, you guys got 80,000 members. It's everywhere. I've seen Jeff promote it, Jeff Emig online. But in Europe, it's probably not as well known as it is in the US.
Yeah, so MX Locker is a peer-to-peer marketplace for the dirt bike community. So think eBay, think Airbnb, where people are posting their own products. We're kind of connecting riders to themselves who are selling riding gear, bike parts, and dirt bikes to be able to transact and sell between each other. So we're an online marketplace built for the dirt bike community.
And I love this concept because in the UK, eBay is very popular, but eBay's kind of, I would say, changed over the last 5 years, where more new parts and new gears sold on eBay rather than the secondhand stuff, which is insane because eBay was always kind of well known for, to buy secondhand motocross gear. And, eBay's kind of changed. Is that kind of giving you an opportunity to seize with MX Locker? I mean, how did this come about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a long story behind it. I've been buying and selling.
Let's do it. Let's do some of that stuff.
All right.
Get those bits out.
Yeah, so it kind of all started middle school. My mom bought me 2 pairs of Nike SBs, and grew up in Miami, believe it or not. So everyone thinks Miami dirt bike company. They don't really add 2 and 2 together. If you're in Miami, no one really knows what a dirt bike is or where the closest dirt bike track is. Believe it or not, my mom's still never been to a dirt bike track. So that's kind of how out of the industry I was. Yeah, it all started with sneakers, was kind of buying and selling, would go to trade shows. That's kind of like what fueled my passion for buying and reselling kind of used products and seeing, there is a secondhand market other than retail. That led to hats. So I was importing hats from overseas and then had a wholesale deal in in Texas, basically. I could get hats at discount if I bought them in bulk. Went to these trade shows because everyone wanted snapback hats, would sell them. Basically, I would be walking around like 14, 15 years old with a couple of $1,000s of cash in my pockets, selling hats, and then realized I wanted to sell them online. So I think that's when like Instagram first launched and like Facebook. So was like early on Facebook, created a normal like Wix site, was selling hats, and then sold like a certain amount of volume where PayPal and eBay needed to verify my age, and got kicked off pretty quickly because I realized I was under 18, and they froze a couple $1,000s till I was 18. So my birthday present was like getting my PayPal account unfrozen. So then my parents were like, all right, you need to focus on school. Always had a passion for dirt bikes. My dad's from South Africa, grew up riding kind of around motorsport. And I'd been riding my entire life. In Miami, there weren't so many tracks. So I was just kind of weekend warrior. When I was in high school, the local tracks kind of closed. So closest track to me was 2.5 hours away. But still just loved dirt bikes, like lived for them. And went to college not knowing kind of where, my parents were like focused on school, got into college. So I found myself at the University of Florida. Believe it or not, like 20 minutes down the road from Gatorback Cycle Park. So I'd always be on Verb Moto. Like I'd find myself in lecture halls, just on verbmoto.com watching videos, and they had a track map. And I'm like, shit, like there's a lot of dirt bike tracks around me. And my dad didn't let me bring my dirt bike to school the first year at uni. So, yeah, that was kind of just like, all right, let me think of ways how to make money with dirt bikes. And while I can't ride right now, I'm at college, I can't do sneakers anymore or hats. Like, let's take what I learned there and kind of learn how to do it with dirt bikes. So then he finally let me bring my bike to college sophomore year. And that's when I realized how dirt bike riding was so expensive, because growing up, like, he was kind of, showing me the ropes and getting me gear. And I always saw people at the track with Tech 10s, and I'd always have Tech 3s, Tech 5s, and he would never spend $600 on a pair of boots. He's like, fuck, like you're a weekend warrior. Why am I going to spend $600 on like boots for you? Like you're not even racing or anything. So kind of made it my own like venture to figure out how to get boots, on my own, and started going on eBay and finding privateers selling their old gear. And that's kind of what the birth of MX Soccer was. I'd buy gear in bulk and buy 10 sets, get 2 sets for free, like 7 MX gear was like the thing at the time. And I'd keep 2 sets for myself and sell the 8 for profit. So yeah, I was kind of just sitting around, created an Instagram. I'm sure if you like scroll down on our Instagram, you can see like the OG post where it's like, I have a pair of Curry goggles for $30. DM us if you're interested. Yeah, so kind of ran that during college. Then we opened it up to like, we got more inventory, opened it up on a website, started to get traction. I was going back and forth between class and, shipping out orders, running the Instagram, kind of very like manual, just trying to find like good deals. And then being that I was so around like Gatorback and MTF, I finagled my way to like, the whole thing was like, how can I get MX Soccer bigger? Was all these amateur kids had so much gear and they're getting it for free, and we're switching brands so much. So I'd go to like all the Gold Cup races and try to take photos of like all the top kids, and because none of them they're like, who the hell is MX Soccer, like sending me a DM that they're gonna buy gear. So I'd go take photos of like all the top kids and be like, hey, like, because everyone wanted photos for social media. So I'm like, hey, here's some photos. By the way, I buy and sell gear, like if you want to sell some of your old stuff. And then they started to get to know me and like felt comfy selling me stuff. And then, yeah, all the kids at MTF quickly realized I lived like an hour and a half away. So I would meet them halfway and get dumps of gear sent to me. Like they'd all like pile up all their stuff and then be like, MX Soccer is coming up. Like, you guys want to like sell your stuff? So yeah, that's like what MX Soccer was during college. Kind of just buying and selling on my own. And then as I started to graduate, kind of realized my dad was never keen on making dirt bikes a living. Like he was always just like, it's a fun side project, but he's like, all right, you have a year to prove to me after college if you can make this like viable. And I always kind of knew I wanted to turn it into a marketplace because we had users messaging us on Instagram saying, hey, like, let me sell you your boots. But I didn't have time to run to the post office every day and ship up boxes. So I actually hired an overseas team and like spent all my money, and that didn't really work out. So I had one more shot to get MX Soccer, like give it a go and like make it a marketplace. So found a developer online in the States. Funny enough, it comes for like full circle. I had dinner with him last night, met him in person for the first time ever, which is kind of cool. Like after 2 years of like working online together. So he built like V1 of MX Soccer that grew it to 7,000 users, and we did over six figures in sales one month. And I'm like, all right, this thing has traction. And then short story, one of my friends from college who studied computer science, I convinced to come on full time. I said, this thing has traction. Let's build out a marketplace. And that's kind of what like MX Soccer is today. Short story. There's more in depth, but yeah, we built our mobile app and website in 3 months. Kind of just like, let's get this out to the world. And we have 170,000 users now on the platform. So it's pretty awesome to see it.
Yeah, the growth has been incredible. And I think that's what's come up on my radar over possibly the past year. It's just I guess maybe you're kind of like thinking about different parts of the business now with like marketing and getting more users onto the platform. So you've had to be kind of looking at social media, looking at partnering with right people to kind of grow that brand and grow the site. Because tell us a little bit about, what, that I mean, first and foremost, obviously you proved to your dad that the business was viable because you obviously put in that year and made that happen. Hey.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, he was kind of shocked, like when we're starting to get traction, and he's like, "All right, like you have my go ahead to," because he's always, like wants me to have my back, like he wants to have my back and make sure I make good business decisions. So he's just like, "All right, like go for it. Like this thing has," and he didn't like me. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into building a marketplace. Like there's so many things that go into it, and looking back, like so many things had to like fall into the right places to like make it work. And like still, like there's just so many new things I learn every day. Like I studied marketing at school, but like didn't really learn much of marketing. I've learned most like just doing it myself. But yeah.
It's pretty cool to get to know something really well. You just realize how much there still is more to know, I guess, is what you're saying as well. And I guess there must have been some pretty tough times there, mate. So I guess it definitely built yourself a lot of resilience, a lot of character, to get through those moments of adversity when you were thinking of throwing it in. So I guess describe yourself as a person and what your best traits are to deal with what you're doing, and then also to make the business a success.
Yeah, I just think like you can't be afraid to go for it. I think, I like being just super active, being straightforward with people, and just like taking the risk. I think I would have been more pissed with myself if I didn't go out and do it. I always tell you, like, the only way you're going to know if something works is if you actually try it. So I'd rather fail and, say, okay, I tried making this work, versus saying, like, dragging myself down my entire life saying, oh shit, like I had this thing and then someone else created it and it turned out to be big. So yeah, I think just doing that, and then just, I don't know, I've built a trait for like business, like ever since growing up. Like I love buying and selling stuff. I can't stop. I just love kind of like learning new things, being online, and yeah, just seeing where e-commerce is going. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the first thing I took is like 15 years old buying and selling trainers. Just to make you laugh and give you an idea of how old I am. I used to basically get vinyl records, put them onto a cassette tape, because obviously I'd like buy the top 20 records on vinyl, record them onto a cassette tape, and then sell them to my friends. So that the tape would cost me £1. I would sell the tape for £3, and that's basically how I started my entrepreneurial journey at sort of 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I can relate. I love listening to other business minds as well, because we all kind of start somewhere with, how does this work? How do I? Because at that time, I'm infatuated with Air Max 90s. So I've got about 70 pairs, and I just collect them, and it's just a very expensive hobby. But when I was 11 years old, it's like, how do I get a pair of Air Max 90s? Because there's no way my parents are buying me these. So it was a lot of mixtapes which I was selling.
Yeah, same thing with my parents, because like we'd be buying Yeezys before they were a thing. I mean, I bought my first pair of Yeezys for $500, probably worth like, I don't know now how much they're worth because of the whole Kanye thing, but I had like the Back to the Future shoes, and they're like, "Why are you spending like 3,000-4,000 on these things?" And like I turned around and like sold them on eBay for like 8,000-9,000. They're like, "All right, like we're just staying out of everything you do now." So
yeah,
so
it's quite funny how you can flip stuff and bits and pieces. And did you have any inspiration sort of coming into this? Was there someone you looked to, or was there a program you watched, or something which inspired you to like, I can make some money this way? Or was it just about having some extra cash through college?
I don't know. I just like, I can't sit still, I would say. So like just between classes, like I always wanted to do something on the side. So it was kind of that. I'd always watch Shark Tank and like was fascinated by people building their own businesses. And just seeing like startups and how cool they are to like work for your own, but also like build something new. Like I never loved going and working and doing something else. Like I love just like setting your own path. So I think that's kind of what aided everything to MX Soccer. But yeah, like just also with like our developers, like having one more shot. I remember my dad saying like, "All right, you have one more shot to get this," because like we had a developer team that like wasn't good, and he's like, "All right, like this isn't working out," and then to have it just even work to the slightest it's just amazing to like look back and see.
Yeah, looking back, you must
And
get a
then
lot of
just also like,
satisfaction.
yeah, and just like because sometimes you get so like stuck in the weeds of like building a business every day. So like even just coming out to California this week and like meeting people, and like no one knows who I am really, because it's pretty funny. But like in the industry, like I could walk around the pits, zero idea. Like there's a couple guys who know who I am. So like people meet me and they think I'm like this 50, 60-year-old guy. And they like double take me. They're like, "Oh shit, like you're MX Soccer? Like I've seen you guys." So that's pretty cool. And then also just like being exposed to e-commerce at an early age. Like I've got scammed before, like buying and selling sneakers. So I knew like that kind of drove my inspiration to like build a safe community for the dirt bike industry.
Yeah,
And that's the biggest challenge. I mean, from looking out inwards, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Hey, is let's not play it down. The whole e-commerce system that you've built is that security for the buyer and the seller. That's a tricky situation to handle. Hey, for any kind of developer to kind of figure out. Okay, we're gonna give the opportunity for people to put their products up, and also we got to give the opportunity for somebody to buy them. But obviously, they can't send them out until the cash has been allocated and is safe in a safe place. Can you talk us through like how the transaction works?
Yeah, so that's like a whole thing. Just also my experience with sneakers. It's like, all right, I've been scammed before, so I know like I want to create a safe place. Like then everyone's like, "Oh, Venmo me," but even my dad is like, he has no idea if you're protected by Venmo or not. Like you got to think about your average user. So yeah, on MX Soccer, we have buyer and seller protection. As a buyer, the money never gets released to the seller until you receive the item, and you have 48 hours to inspect that item, make sure it came correct. We give the buyer 48 hours, because sometimes people are away and like don't open a package right away. We do have something with buyers where if they're away, they can notify us and say, "Hey, I'm on vacation. Like I can't open this package at the moment." For a seller, we, have all fraudulent check. Like we protect you from fraud completely. Like we have chargebacks and we handle those. You'll never see those happen. We accept every kind of major credit card, so we're dealing with all payments. We're handling payment processing, all those good things. We're putting your product out to, thousands of users, and then that's going onto your MX Soccer balance. So you could actually cash out to your bank account or debit card. And then what's cool about that, you could also turn around that balance and buy something on the platform. So it's completely secure. We use a really big, payment processor. a big company, and a lot of major marketplaces use them. So figuring that out was definitely a huge hurdle, but we improve security all the time. Like we just released an app update today that has like identity protocols put into place. So you could upload a photo of your ID. It gives you a verified badge on your profile. So a user knows like if they're buying from you, you're a verified person. If this person's buying from you, they're a verified person. So the whole goal is to make it, as seamless and safe as possible for both users, both buyers and sellers.
No, I love it. And this is where there's e-commerce and there's what you're doing is like a different level, because e-commerce is like, hey, let's open up a Shopify website. We'll do $29.99. Hey, we're a business. I'm an e-commerce guy. But the level you're going at MX Locker is just ridiculous. I can only imagine the APIs and the security and literally how many kind of Zapier connections you've got talking to each other to make this thing happen. So the guy, your developer must be, well thought out, like computer science dude.
Yeah, no, he went to school for it, and big shout out to Andrew, who's a year older than me. We both were at college together, and I think when I first said like let's build this thing, he thought it was like a normal Shopify store, like one e-commerce front, one seller, and he's like, I could build this in 2 months. And then he was still at his other job, and he realized like 2 months in, I'm like, hey, let's see the progress. And he's like, yeah, this is definitely more complicated than I thought. So that's when I convinced him to join full time. And yeah, just like thinking about a marketplace, there's just so much that goes into it. Like we're solving not only like sellers. So we actually had supply in the beginning because that was me flipping stuff. But I mean, we made up 90%, almost 100% of sales in the first couple of months because it was only our supply on the site. And then convincing sellers to put their product on our platform at like a negotiated fee where we're not making any money at all was just a huge hurdle. And then like trying to get people to come buy from our new platform, like, do you trust MX Locker? It's definitely like you're building both supply and demand at the same time. And it's definitely cool to see at scale, but we're not even at scale yet, I would say. So it's continuing like these two like lines that you're controlling, like both supply and demand.
I mean, I find this whole process fascinating. In everybody will always like see the finished version of MX Locker and say, "Oh, this is amazing what you guys done," but there's a lot of things which can, like, let's say, I like the word challenges. There's a lot of challenges that happen in that journey. So can you kind of like give us an example of a couple of things where you just like, fuck, this is tough. How am I going to get over this hurdle? What kind of couple of challenges? What stuck out to you over your the building of the site in sort of getting this to a viable market?
Oh, that's tough. So what stuck out to me definitely was just like having the first marketplace, like with the developer I met last night, Luke, and just running that to 7,000 users. Really, like without that, I don't think I would have been able to build a platform because I really learned like what a marketplace was and like what was needed to be built. So when Andrew, my co-founder, joined, I kind of knew exactly what needed to be built. So that was super beneficial. There's definitely been some moments. I think the day we launched, we were like paying out users like way more money than needed to be, and our whole payment system was screwed up. So Andrew was kind of freaking out, and like payments were going all over the place because we like had one line of code wrong. So that was definitely like an oh shit moment. Obviously, just being a big marketplace, like you have guys who do fraud for a living and try, take advantage of like marketplaces and marketplace dynamics. We had like a series of fraud like one night, and I think we lost like $10,000 in one night. And me and Andrew are just like, oh my God, like what is going on? Because it just like happened 3-4 a.m. and we'd wake up and just be like, oh my God, like what just happened? But it's all, I tell him, it's all like we learn as we go, and we make the system better and better and better and better. And like knock on, like, that doesn't happen anymore because we've put all these systems in place and learned from all those learnings. And just like, but yeah, definitely some oh shit moments, with
Yeah.
those. And I think also another oh shit moment was we like released an auction and we forgot to release like the Android app, and we were having like people being able to buy it now for an auction versus bid on an item because they didn't have a recent app update. So that was definitely a no shit moment. But all in all, like, that was just when like Andrew was the sole developer managing our app and website. So it was a lot of hats to carry. And he's done like a fantastic job, building the platform. And we have more developers now, but big shout out to like Andrew and Jack who have really like made this platform possible.
What is the size of your team like, mate? And obviously it must be cool to work in that environment with so many people that share your passion and want to make it as good as possible. And just to follow on what James said, I guess, what are some of the key catalysts for the immense growth you've experienced? Obviously pretty cool seeing you being featured in Forbes. That must be like a vindication of all you're doing and a reward for all the hard work, mate. So just your thoughts on a couple of those things.
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate it. Believe it or not, we're only a size 6 of us full time. So small team. We have outsourced kind of advisors and contractors to help us out. But yeah, 6 of us full time working on the project. We've built a really, really strong product, I think, which kind of stands out and put systems in place that could like run on their own. So it's not so micromanaging. It's more building a better system where we could manage it via one person instead of having 5 people doing one thing. But I think we're building a product that a lot of users want to use. And being that the dirt bike industry and everything around it is so expensive, like users need to make money on like stuff. Like before, like users would throw out boots, parts, etc. And also just with the dirt bike industry, parts are changing every 2-3 years. Like if you're buying a 24 Yamaha, the parts for your 23 now no longer fit, but there's someone out there who still has a 23 Yamaha who wants the parts for it. So we've really just gone like focused on dirt bikes and made the experience like, I'm a dirt bike rider. So I always tell everyone like, we're part of the industry. Like we kind of know who our consumer is and we're trying to build that experience for them. And like, I love hearing feedback on our product. Like if you guys want features built, I always tell people like, feel free to reach out. Like we're a small team. Like we're part of the dirt bike industry. We're not this massive tech company. Like it may seem like that from the outside, which is cool even to like set here, but we're building this for like the riding community. So
that's cool. So the business is it 6 years old now, Ryan?
So you could say it's like 5 years old, but our marketplace is only 2 years old, believe it or not. Okay. So you could call 6 years of me in college, buying and flipping stuff, like part of MX Soccer, which it was. But I just think we completely like, that was one side of the business, which we still kind of do. Like we flip product, but the marketplace is only really 2 years old. We launched in 2021.
It's kind of, you're working on a blueprint, I guess, for 3 years, which kind of made the marketplace happen. You kind of learn it.
Yeah.
It is the kind of the fundamentals of real life, which you have to then put into tech.
Yeah, exactly. It was like our pre-MVP. So like in tech, you call MVP like minimal viable product. So like pre-MVP was me in college, like just seeing if people would buy used gear. Cause like I would always walk around the pits and be like, all right, there's a lot of money in here. Like, how can we make this, a thing? Like, and then MVP would be like the first website I would say we built right out of college with one of our developers. And then once that got to 7,000 users, that's when like we're like, okay, let's take this thing and make it a serious company.
So obviously we get to kind of now you've got 80,000 users currently using the website.
180,000. We're about to hit 170,000 today.
Holy shit! Okay, so 170,000 users. Majority of them in the US.
Yeah, majority of them in the US. We have sellers all over the world. And we want to cater our experience better to an international consumer. But yeah, we have users selling items in Croatia, Canada, in Europe, So we've definitely seen some like cross-border payments happening.
That's really cool. I mean, I guess when people are kind of looking to sell signed shirts, memorabilia, those type of things, when someone's after something really specific, like an old Honda 500, 1987 Honda CR500 Kickstart, which they can't get anymore. This is a perfect place, hey, to be able to list these items and connect people from all over the world.
Yeah, that's our goal. Like we have when you're, in your account, you could add what bikes are in your garage, what brands you like, what size you are. And our whole thing with that is we want to show you products that are like catered to you. There's so many items on the marketplace, but how can we make it easier for you to find products you're looking for? So
that's really cool. I was going to say, what are some of the most popular things just on the surface? Is there any surprises, or is it just like you think with the popular A-Stars boots you were mentioning before, this kind of stuff, mate?
Yeah, so biggest volume category is boots for sure, because I think that's probably the most price sensitive thing. Like that's what got me to start the idea is you want a pair of Tech 10s, but they're $600 and you're about to wear them and eat up the soles in them. So it's tough to like spend $600 on them. So I'd rather, buy a couple pairs and spend $1,000 and maybe get 3 pairs. So that's biggest category. In terms of like dollar volume, it's definitely suspension, just because each aftermarket suspension is selling from like $3,000 to $10,000 if you're buying a kit or something. And then exhaust is a big category, and goggles is probably second behind boots.
That's very cool. It's just a really interesting concept, and one of the things which I wanted to ask you about is how do you see AI taking where do you see AI sort of implementing into MX Locker going forward? Is it something that you're kind of looking at? Because obviously a small team, you want to keep a small team because it keeps the costs lower. Developers aren't cheap. And in it's like all of us, even with mxvice, we've gone through a real tough year. So we're trying to manage our sort of expenditure and keep our costs down to a minimum. And we're constantly looking at innovative ways that we can work. And I'm sure you are as a business. Is AI coming up on your developers' radars yet?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're already using it on the platform. It's something you can't see, but like when a user inputs their bike sizes, kind of all their like personal data, we're taking that data and kind of showing you products based on that, and based on what you're looking at, what you're adding to cart, based on like your behavior, we want to better recommend, products to you. So that's kind of using AI technology. We're speaking with like other AI developers who are like helping build tools for marketplaces that we want to implement. But like using AI to make the marketplace like easier for a user. So what we want to do is we have all this pricing data because we know like what a used pair of Tech 10s is selling for. So one of the big things on our roadmap is like if you're creating a listing and posting a Bell Moto 10, having AI recognize like, okay, that's a Bell Moto 10. It's going to automatically fill out the title for you. It knows it's in used condition. How used is it? What colorway is it? How much is that helmet selling for? It's going to recommend prices for you, and kind of just make the listing like more of a seamless process. So that's definitely where we want to use it. Definitely in terms of like just making the whole experience on our platform like easier and better for a user.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I was going to ask, you're obviously very driven and ambitious, and you put so much time and effort into making the platform what it is today, mate. So how do you sort of channel your resources and, I guess, prioritize your time, funnel it into the areas that, need the most attention? Is that a tough thing to balance, mate? Because there must be so many different things you want to do, but prioritizing must be quite difficult.
Yeah, it definitely, like, moving from, it took me a bit because like I'd sit next to Andrew, our developer, every day and be like, hey, let's put this button here. Let's make this button more round or more square. Because I think I have a good eye for like design. Like I love doing product design. But then it just became too much of a process because he was coding and, I'm bothering him, because I'm like driving his ears around to like make a button look nicer.
Perfectionist.
So now so it's more now I work with our like product designer. So I say product, but product means like building new features on the platform. So I'll put together kind of a checklist for the quarter, say we want to release these new features, and I'll design them with him. And like Figma essentially is what we use. And then those products get handed over to the developers, and the developers go and code that. And then I always touch on marketing, like helping with brand deals and stuff like that, and like setting flows up, like email campaigns, etc. And just using like my connections in the industry, like building those without even like being in the industry is kind of cool. But yeah, like mostly product, and now just more like business development is what I focus on.
And that takes up quite a lot of time, hey Ryan, because I'm guessing there's like so many tools out there like Klaviyo, MailChimp, all these types of tools which enhance e-commerce, like Abandoned Cart. Then I guess you're doing a lot of A and B split testing as well, working out what one works better than the other. The whole market and the conversion rate optimization, that's a massive time consumer now as well, hey, because that's like a full-time job in itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we have some really good advisors from other big marketplaces, which have helped us. Like sometimes you get so stuck in the weeds, you got to zoom out. So like we've just built dashboards for looking at data and understanding, like so all my decisions early on were based on just what I thought was best. So it's now kind of using data to kind of drive those decisions, and not looking at so much data, because data could drive you nuts, but looking at like specific data charts and making decisions around those, it has definitely helped.
Yeah, Ed and myself spend a lot of time in obviously in Google Analytics, because UX is obviously quite key. We've improved the mxvice website this year, and we've seen a massive uplift in session times on the website and how many pages people are looking at. So I kind of had the 1,000-foot view, because having an agency previously, I was very much similar to you, where I'd just sit next to my graphic designer, John, who's also my best mate, and I'd bug the shit out of him. And it would drive him around the bend. He just want to get me in the headlock, tell me to fuck off. So it's kind of, now I got a bit of a 1,000-foot view, where it's kind of we're kind of steering mxvice to where we want it to go, and then we're never seeking perfection anymore. Where before we were always seeking perfection, where now it's all about kind of, we know where the destination is. We need to learn as much as possible on the journey. Is that a kind of strategy that you guys are adopting? You kind of know where you want to get to, but you're constantly learning on this journey.
Yeah, for sure. Especially just having, like, speaking to people who have built big marketplaces as well, like it's cool to speak to people outside of Moto sometimes as well, because we're kind of building this dynamic that's happening, and getting like outside opinions to be like, this is what you need to make it work, but also listening to our customers is the biggest thing. So, customers coming to us and bringing up ideas and saying, hey, you guys should do this, and build this. And we'll take that feedback and go and build it for them, and building tools to kind of make the processes better for them. It is really cool. We work with a lot of like small dealers who sell on our platform, have kind of been left out of this e-commerce phase, and building better tools for them to kind of sell more inventory, but at the same time, like making the user experience good enough where if you want to see only used products, you'll see used products. If you want to see new stuff, you could also buy from a local dealer and support a small business.
No, I think that's really cool. Like the way that you're connecting those small businesses, because I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK, there's still quite a lot of dealers which are just your kind of backstreet dealers, don't have a website still. They don't actually even use eBay that much. They just rely on people coming through the door. So your platform can actually replace a website for them, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of them are trying to speak to us about, and what we want to try to build for them is we've kind of got all this users into one place. So for them to go spin up a website and spend all this money on marketing to get users to the platform, they're going to spend a lot of money. So for kind of what our cost is to them, it's super beneficial to post products, and we'll put those products in front of the right people.
Yeah, it's really cool. You obviously have an active community whether that's positive or negative, suggestions or ideas. That's really cool to have that in the first place, because it shows people care, shows they're using it, and shows how beneficial it is to them, mate, even though it's probably pretty hard to respond to everyone because there's a lot of users there, mate. So how do you sort of delegate finding the time for all that, or do you have a dedicated person that does all that, or is that you?
Yeah, I still hop on support here and there, because support is where I tell everyone it's where you learn the most. Like, if you have 0 support tickets, that means like things are going right, but support tickets are where you learn where stuff is going wrong. So we have a dedicated support team, but I work really closely with them because, for me, it's just getting that feedback and being able to improve experiences with product is kind of like the whole, circle effect and making that loop better in a way, and like that feedback loop really strong.
Yeah, and then tying into that, how important is the use of social media? Obviously, your page is really good, really well done, presented, lots of good following. I'm sure you've experienced a huge growth in that too, mate. So how instrumental and integral is that?
Yeah, I think just having a social media presence has helped us a ton. Because when we first launched the platform as well, like, people didn't trust us. Like, for us holding money in escrow, users are like, I just sold suspension. Why am I going to sell suspension? Or like send suspension out, that's $4,000. It just shows pending on my balance. Like, how do I trust that? So having a strong social media presence now and like people behind it, like Jeff Emig, has really built like this strong brand that people could trust. Because in the early days, it was very tough to convince a user to send something out without having money in their pocket. So it's definitely been instrumental to this, and we definitely want to get better at it. Doing explainer and tutorial videos for users to, how to sell, how to ship, how does the process work? Like, what is MX Soccer? Because sometimes people just think we're an e-commerce site and don't realize you're buying from other users around the world, around the country. So,
I mean, that's the kind of key message I guess you want to try and get across, is that it's a tool that connects people. So it's a supply and demand. Hey, you're looking for a specific part, a specific, for instance, the Supreme Fox kit, what came out, where, in just like these limited edition runs, I think the Alpine Stars has just done the anti-social gear. I'm guessing the collabs. I'm guessing those things are going to be what comes up onto MX Locker as well, where you're trying to find that unique item as well.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some unique stuff that's popped up. I mean, even Emig like sometimes texts me. It's like one of his old jerseys popped up one time. He's like, "Holy shit! Like, look at this! Like, I didn't know this thing still existed." So definitely cool. We've had like some really cool trick parts pop up. Some super cool like tricked out A kit. So yeah, like there's definitely people watching the site all day and trying to find those cool unique items.
And obviously, it fast tracks the process when you have guys like Emig and all these riders doing work with you. Is that massive boost as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I mean, it also just like being in Miami, growing up in Miami, like I didn't really know anyone in the industry, and to kind of get into it from an outside view is kind of cool. Like everyone thinks like I know everyone in the industry still, but like I just said, I was at LA Coliseum this weekend, like meeting people for the first time, and I walk around the pits like no one knows who I am. So it's cool to come out here and just meet all the media guys. And, I've been working with some people who have never met me in my life. So to just go in person and be like, hey, I'm Ryan from MX Soccer. And, a lot of people like I said earlier, think I'm like 40, 50 years old. And they're like, oh shit, like you're still a kid. I'm only 26 now. So it's kind of cool to see that as well. Because everyone thinks like, like they have this whole idea of what MX, like who is running MX Soccer, and then when they see us, it's kind of cool.
No, it's cool. I think the key thing is you've grown up in an age where you've hit it at the right time, where people, with social media, with the tools that are available to them, it's kind of played to your strengths, Ryan, because you've obviously adopted digital and social media from a very, very young age, that entrepreneurial spirit. And now you're talking to an audience which is actually embracing it as well now. So it's only going to grow. I mean, where do you see MX Locker going over the next 2 years?
we definitely just want to become the biggest marketplace for the dirt bike industry and like power the circular economy within this community. We want to work with like a lot of the cool brands. I know definitely we're going into, I think, an economy where not everyone's going to be spending as much. And a lot of these bigger brands are going to have a ton of supply. So helping them kind of distribute that within the industry, and kind of just making like, one, growing our user base, two, working with, a lot of local dealers who have been left behind in this kind of e-commerce frenzy, helping support them. And then also we love working with privateers. So supporting them, helping them sell extra parts and gear after the season and let them go racing. And then also we want to make it like a super seamless process to buy and ship a dirt bike is really what we're working on.
Yeah, that's really cool. Obviously, you're building the relationships with brands, members, and so many industry people. I thought it was particularly cool that you obviously help with things like the Road to Recovery and the animal shelter, the Atlas one there. It's a mega initiative doing that, mate. I know my wife and James, we all love animals, mate. So to have a part of that, I'm assuming you have some dogs, I've seen some videos pop up and stuff. So that's really cool, mate, getting into that sort of stuff too.
No, I appreciate it. It comes for us, like, and again, full circle, because when I started MX Locker, Jesse Nelson got hurt and I took the initiative to, like, no one was really doing anything. And I took the initiative to get I Ride for Jesse shirts made. And that's kind of what introed me. I think that was, senior year of high school, and introed me to Lori from Road to Recovery. And she kind of didn't want to use eBay anymore and, told her like what was wrong with the platform. And we're like, hey, let's host your auctions on our platform. We're happy to help out. And we've raised a ton of money. Like with the Brian Barnes auction that we just had, they raised about $85,000. So it's awesome to, not only build this marketplace, but also just give back to the community. Like, we're not some big tech company, we're part of the dirt bike community. And that's what, I want to tell everyone, like, we're riders and building this for riders. So.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, I guess that's that thing where you kind of got to try and keep your feet on the ground, because I bet one part of you is like saying, right, let's have a race team. We're going to sponsor a race team, or we're going to go and do this and we're going to go and do that. And you have to get that balance, I guess, in business of trying to figure out, where, what you're doing with the product, improving the product and reinvesting in the business, but also that balance of trying to connect and market to new people.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's just interesting because being like not in the industry, I don't really know what like going rates are for like certain things. So, for me, it's just, I've always kind of like, when I tell everyone, like, if we're doing advertising stuff, it's, if we're putting $1 in, I want to know how much is that dollar going to make us. Like, we're not just going to do a race team because we have money to do it. We're going to do a race team because it's a marketing tool for us and getting the word out there. But yeah, we have some cool ideas for marketing stuff, but I think, there's a lot of powerful ideas we could do, kind of, using old inventory and allowing users to get new inventory via our platform and stuff like that.
So the one thing which I'm obviously keen to see is MX Locker more and more over in the UK and Europe. So is that like a strategy you're going to put in place to try and sort of bridge that gap?
Yeah, definitely. So it's already on our roadmap. We're starting to work on a better experience for like users. If you're in the UK, seeing prices in, UK amount. If you're in Canada, seeing it in a Canadian dollar. We actually we had users having trouble with bank accounts, like in Canada. So we have a new update, again, releasing today, with a better seamless connection to your bank account. So you don't have to, guess what an institution like number is, or like what your account number is and how it matches to like our US format. So making improvements there. And then as well, like, if anyone in the US has a dealer or is a seller of dirt bike products, feel free to reach out. We're definitely like, we'd love to get you on the website and start, expanding into Europe.
So Ryan, I've kind of we spoke a little bit about kind of like where I kind of see things going. I think the publishing game's really changing with again, people are spending money on advertising, they do want to see a return. I think what's happened is because you can pay per click now with Google and Facebook, you get a nice little analytical board basically telling you how much you've spent, and how much it's made you. So, this whole mindset's changing now with this next generation of marketing and business guys which are coming through. So, how mxvice is changing as a business is, like I said, about implementing. We've implemented our own shop within mxvice to try and, make our site self-sufficient. So do you think this is what big sort of game changers do you think's on the way with digital going forward? What could affect what you're doing?
I don't know. It's kind of tough to say, but I just think we're in a unique position, like where we're at. With digital moving forward, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say. Like, I think like a lot of race teams hit us up to do sponsorships, and like I think just from like being a young kid, you want to jump at these opportunities, right? Like I grew up a race fan, etc. Like, but at the same time, it's like if I'm going to spend this dollar amount, like I could go to. It sucks to say, but you could go to Facebook, you go to Google, you know exactly how much money is going in there, and then what you're getting return out of it. But we definitely like we have a cool marketing plan set up. We're doing some like cool bike builds and grabbing parts off MX Soccer and using those parts to build a bike and showing like that whole, thing. Like you could find new and used parts on the platform. Let's buy an old bike and do that. So yeah, the time's definitely changing, but I think the re-commerce and circular economy is here to stay. And I think our generation is getting more used to buying used stuff and selling. Like I tell everyone, like eBay was more if you're an experienced seller. Like our experience is to make it where it's like you're selling an item for the first time. Like how can we make this as easy as possible?
Nice, cool. And obviously personalization is key on the platform because you don't want to be wading through loads of parts and loads of gear. On MX Locker, you can go on, you can put what sizes you want, what brands you like, what bike you have. So you get that more personalized experience, hey?
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to build. Like if you have a KTM 125, like you're only going to want to see 125 parts. And then if you get a new bike, delete that bike out your garage and put, a 24 Yamaha YZ250F and we'll show you parts for that bike. And if you only want to see Fox and Alpine Stars, add those as your brands. And like, we want to cater your experience specifically towards that. So it's definitely what we're trying to build.
We had have you managed to get over to Europe yet and see any racing in Europe?
No, I'm not. Emma keeps telling me we should go. So I definitely want to make my way over there and come check it out. And also just meet people in Europe and, and cruise around. So
I think what you need to do is get off the podcast, grab MX, say we're going to the Motocross of Nations in France. And I tell you what,
exactly.
When you get there and you see literally 65,000 people, like are just massive, passionate motocross fans, you're just going to go, holy fuck, let's translate to France tomorrow. Let's get this shit done.
No, 100%. If you're paying for my flight, I'm there.
And you can watch some Champions League too, mate. Watch the football.
Yeah, exactly.
Arsenal's actually playing in France the week before the Nations, mate. So there you go.
There you go. It works out. I'm all in. You guys set it up. I'm there.
So Ryan, it's really interesting to hear your story with you because where I've spoken to a few people on this podcast and they've kind of come into the industry. They follow certain paths, work for companies, and you've completely rewritten the rules of this podcast show so far because you are the true entrepreneurial who's had an idea. And I think this is, I love listening to this because it's when people are so focused on, and they really believe that their idea can be a working business, that they literally just focus on that 100%. They're not kind of veered off the road. And it sounds like since college, you've kind of focused on, right, okay, I know what I want. I know that this can work. And you've doubled down on it rather than trying to work in the industry, trying to figure out stuff because you're not reinventing the wheel. There is eBay. but it's so much more than
Yeah.
eBay. Because eBay doesn't have even like freaking 10% of the features of what MX Locker has.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Like, definitely put my head down, and there's been long hours into this platform, which everyone sees like, oh, MX Soccer, the app, but I've seen it since the beginning. I used to like take names off jerseys like to sell them, so that was kind of early days, and to now like have a marketplace with users making money, like we're putting money into people's pockets is really cool to see. So I appreciate it.
That's the fun thing, hey, about the entrepreneurial journey. No one sees you at Sunday night at 12 o'clock doing the shit jobs which you don't want to be doing. You'd rather be watching TV. You'd rather be watching going out with friends and stuff like that. But I don't know about you, but like I work all day, and then because Ed's in Australia, the only time I get to catch up with him is in the evenings. We do podcasts usually in the evenings.
Yeah,
but that's what it takes.
No, 100%. And it's once you open a marketplace, they're open for business 24/7. So it's definitely has its fun. But yeah, it's sometimes nice to step back a bit and get away from it. But at the same time, it always drags you back in. And it's fun to put my passions together, just e-commerce and dirt bikes. And like even yesterday, we're at our warehouse in California that we have now, and having riders come through and hang out, and you're like, this is work. Like it's really cool to do. So
was the Coliseum the weekend? Was that quite a nice kind of, I kind of call them reset buttons. Like I went back to the MXGP of Matley Basin the weekend. And for me, I've had my head down building the mxvice website and getting that up and going for the last 6 months. So going to a GP, it was just like, fuck, this is what I'm doing it for. I love this shit.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get your head down and you're kind of like, you're like working. And you go to the event the weekend. Did you have one of those moments at the weekend saying, this is what it's all about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like sometimes I get burnout throughout the week. You have a bad week, and you're like, I want to, as much as you want to go to dirt bike riding, like at the track, you're just like, I don't want to go to the track because you have everyone asking you about MX Soccer and this and that, and then you're just like in work mode 24/7. So, but like when you like take a step back and like go to these events and see the passion the dirt bike industry has and the people who are involved in it, and what dirt bikes brings to your life. Like for me in college, like I used it as a distractor from the partying, and it's taught me real life skills. Like there's nothing better than going to the track, in the afternoon or in the morning and just hanging out with your friends and putting your phone away. And I think that's what our generation needs. Like everyone's so stuck behind their devices, and no one, like all my friends joke with me, oh, you're going riding again? It's like they don't understand like the thrill you get from it, and just the like adrenaline release, and you feel like a new person after you get off a dirt bike. So
it's pretty cool. It must have been good to sort of get some tangible sort of recognition for what you're doing, because I guess you're definitely making a ripple, and you would have seen a lot of people at the racing that are experiencing that and benefiting from your platform. So like James was saying, a bit of a reset, refresh, recalibrate, and you probably come out of it hungrier than ever to make it as good as possible. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, also just, I've actually never been out to Temecula before this trip. So started MX Soccer, and I've never like even seen where KTM was or Husqvarna was. So it's cool to just be around see where the KTM test track is, and it kind of just shows you like how big this industry is. Even though everyone says it's small, it's definitely big. And it's also just cool to see. I was cruising around the pits and like having a conversation with someone, and they like overhear us, and they're like, "Oh, you're MX Soccer? Like I've sold, like a couple things on your site." And it's like having that real life experience is definitely super cool. So.
Ryan, did you find yourself going around the pits just looking at all the kit and going, fuck, that's 10 grand there, that's 5 grand there, that's 15 grand there, I need to get on this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's sometimes why I shouldn't walk around the pits, because I'm just like, instead of having a conversation, I'm like, let's have a conversation on how we should sell all these, like even the stands, the toolboxes, anything. So
yeah,
but
hey, that's the thing. You can try and switch off, but sometimes you can't. Hey?
Exactly. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I for one, I know Ed is as well. We were buzzed about having you on here because we've seen the growth of MX Locker over the last couple of years. I think having Jeff on board has been a big move, especially because he has such a big following in Europe. So I know that there's a lot of people talking about it. So I think a lot of people are kind of waiting to see how this is going to explode over in Europe. So, just want to thank you for your time. It's really good to hear, like an entrepreneurial journey. It's not all roses, is it? I mean, there's tears, there's failures, there's challenges. Yeah. Everybody kind of gets to see our like MX Locker, imagine 2 years time, MX Locker is incredible, but they don't get to see the journey. They don't get to, when you and the developers there in like you took the mistakes which happen at the start of the show. And it's just those little things which, at the time feels the worst thing in the world, but looking back, you're like, okay, well, it's good that happened then and we fixed that then, because now going forward, we won't make that same mistake twice. So,
yeah.
But I love listening to your journey. I think the site is a game changer. I think you're gonna. I think, like Ed said, there's a ripple going through the industry. I think it's going to be a wave pretty soon. And I'm glad we got you on the podcast to talk about it. So and we'd love to get you back on, in the near future, just to, maybe listen to some more stories about how it's developing in where you're going. And I'm just a fan of other entrepreneurs and love people succeeding as well, but also love hearing about the challenges. So really do appreciate your time coming on to Inside Moto Show.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, this is probably one of the first podcasts I've done in the industry. Like, everyone, like, we don't get any recognition, which, one, we need to ask for it more, but two, like, no one really reaches out to us. And like, we do all this money for like Road to Recovery and all this stuff, but we don't get any featured anywhere. So appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate the support. I'll have to get your guys' address and send over some MX Locker swag, so some merch and hats and everything. So
that'd be incredible, and we'll send you over some mxvice hoodies for you and Andrew, which would be really cool.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys.
That's great. That's it for episode 4 of the Inside Moto Show. Huge thank you to Ryan and MX Locker. I mean, if you've the domain name mxlocker.com, is that correct, Ryan?
Yeah, mxlocker.com, but everyone uses our app, so just look up MX Locker in the App Store or Play Store.
So the first thing you need to do when you're listening to this, obviously not in the car if you're on your way to work, or using sort of you're in a factory and it's like heavy goods or dangerous items, don't go on the app then. Just wait till you've got a break and then go on it. But mxlocker.com. Check him out on social media as well. And also, so big thanks to MX Locker, big thanks to Ryan for joining the show, and Even Strokes, a UK-based online motocross shop that offers motocross parts and gear driven by making motocross more affordable. They always have deals throughout the week, and always use the mxvice code to get 10% off anything site-wide. That's it. Ed, thanks ever so much for joining us. How was your first Inside Moto Show?
Oh, mate, it was awesome. It was really cool to be a part of it and listen to all the things Ryan had to say, and listen to you guys bouncing ideas off each other and feedback, because it's definitely more your guys' domain. But yeah, I had a blast, mate, and hopefully all the best for the future. There's certainly exciting times ahead for both you guys and mxvice and MX Locker. So anything we can do to help in the future, mate, just reach out, and we definitely look forward to speaking again.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
Great. And that's it. We'll be back with episode 5 next week.